Disney Plus's take on the popular fantasy young adult novel demigod Percy Jackson hits the stream, and the double-episode premiere kicks off the story with a formidable bang. Percy Jackson and the Olympians is the second live-action adaptation of the iconic character created by Rick Riordan. After the 2010 film starring Logan Lerman, both these adaptations follow the events of the first book in the series named Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. We are reintroduced to the familiar world of Percy Jackson with its various stories, characters, Greek mythological creatures, and gods, along with areas like Camp Half-Blood, which do most of the heavy lifting regarding the world building. The show holds no punches back, as the viewers are provided with plenty of exciting plot points, doing a good job of setting up the story to come. Amidst all the densely packed story reveals and plot twists, it's possible to miss out on a couple of beats. Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. Marvelous Videos brings you the breakdown and explanation of the first 2 episodes of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Let's jump right into it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Percy is not normal. All the troubles a normal 12-year-old kid would have, like bullies or bad grades, Percy Jackson has them all. But the real trouble started lurking when he started seeing abnormal things back in the 2nd grade. A young Percy is told that he must be imagining things, so he shuts himself off until he meets his best friend, Grover Underwood, with whom Percy shares a lot in common. Grover was also bullied all the time, and he kept calming Percy down whenever Percy felt the need to confront their bullies, especially this one bully named Nancy. Once, on a school trip, Percy stands up to Nancy, and just when he's about to approach her, she mysteriously gets shoved into a fountain by a push of air. Unable to process what just happened, Percy turns to see his algebra teacher, Mrs. Dudds, turning into a Fury, one of the Greek goddesses of vengeance. She pins down a fallen Percy, repeatedly asking him, "Where is it?" when a golden sword magically appears out of a pen given to Percy by Mr. Brunner, another teacher at the Yancey Academy. The sword pierces Fury in the stomach, turning her into dust, right after which Percy passes out. Percy dreams of a man taunting at him from a distance. The man appears as a dark and looming figure holding a lantern, calling Percy weak and telling him to give up. This becomes a recurring dream of Percy. Everyone is keeping a secret from Percy. Percy is called into the principal's office following his apparent assault on Nancy, where he repeats only one thing in his defense: "I didn't touch Nancy." However, Grover, who has been advising Percy against confronting Nancy, decides to turn on Percy, getting him expelled from the school. A disappointed Percy packs his bags and goes home, where we meet his stepfather, who is not happy with him getting expelled. He finds his mother out in the window getting drenched in rain and lost in thought. She supports Percy by believing his story and suggests they take a drive out to their favorite cabin at a beach in Montauk. Percy's mother, Sally Jackson, sits him down at a cabin and proceeds to tell him that his father is a god and Percy is a demigod, which makes him a half-blood and hence making the world unsafe for him. Just when they're interrupted by Grover waiting outside the cabin with a message. Percy is disappointed to see Grover, but Sally lets him inside, at which point Percy sees that Grover has goat legs, whose message was that they need to leave immediately for camp as Percy is being chased by something. Percy, Sally, and Grover sit in a car and start driving when Grover reveals that he's actually a satyr and the protector of Percy, and he turned Percy in at the principal in order to get him out of the school for his own protection. Percy learns about Camp Half-Blood being a safe space for demigods where he cannot be attacked by monsters, and just as they're about to reach camp, a minotaur starts chasing them. The minotaur chases them until the car crashes just a few meters away from the camp, at which point Sally has to say goodbye to Percy. She lures the minotaur away from Percy by using his jacket, but her efforts stand useless as the minotaur overwhelms her by holding her at the waist, and Sally Jackson turns to dust as Percy watches on. Enraged at what he just witnessed, Percy charges at the minotaur as the pen in his pocket turns into a sword again. He cuts the minotaur's horn off and stabs its head, turning the minotaur to dust and fainting yet again, thus bringing the first episode to a conclusion. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. The second episode opens with Percy waking up in the infirmary with Grover sitting beside him, determined to find his father as Percy blames him for Sally's death. Percy walks out of the infirmary to find a man whom Grover refers to as Mr. D, who we all find out is the Greek god of winemaking, Dionysus himself. He claims to be Percy's father and asks him to fetch a bottle of wine when Percy inquires about his ancestry. Just then, Mr. Brunner enters, now appearing as a majestic centaur called Chiron, explaining that Mr. D is the camp director and not actually Percy's father. Mr. D was punished by Zeus for being insolent and was forbidden to consume alcohol, but as it turns out, demigods can do things for gods that they're forbidden to do themselves, so he was using Percy to get his hand onto wine. Chiron takes Percy on a tour of the camp, asking Grover to stay back. Grover reluctantly hangs back as he looks at them, walking away with a worried look on his face, and says that it doesn't feel right when he's firmly advised by Mr. D to not overthink it. On his tour of the camp with Mr. Brunner, Percy learns that the camp is a sacred valley hidden from humans that monsters cannot enter. All children of Greek gods that were had with a human live here safely. The camp consists of 12 cabins for 12 Olympian gods, each cabin being the home for the children claimed by that god. Percy, having not been claimed by any of the gods yet, moves into Hermes' cabin, as it is home to both Hermes' children and unclaimed children. Mr. Brunner makes an announcement about Percy's arrival to all the children in the cabin, who stay entirely unreactive to it, and then leaves Percy at his new home. Glory is what drives life at camp. Percy overhears a few boys at the cabin discussing how he's the one who killed the Minotaur and is approached by an older kid. Percy mistakes this kid to be hostile, but turns out to be a well-hearted kid called Luke Castellan. He tells Percy that he's the son of Hermes and apologizes for what happened to Percy, becoming friends with him. Luke explains that glory is something demigods have fought for, and they called it kleos. Glory gets attached to your name and increases your importance in the world. Percy understands that he could get glory to make his father notice him and henceforth claim him as a son, so he and Luke set out to find out something that Percy is good at. Percy tries his hand at archery, which proves to be very wrong for him. Then he tries a hand at being a swordsmith, at which he proves to be much worse. Luke promises Percy that sooner or later they'll find the thing that Percy is good at. Children of Aries. Percy is yet again met by a bully at camp, this time by the name of Clarice, who is the daughter of Aries. She does not buy into the fact that Percy actually killed the Minotaur, as everybody at camp believes and wants him to admit it. She corners Percy in the middle of the night along with two of her siblings, drags him into a bathroom, and attempts to dunk his head into the toilet, as Percy refuses to admit he didn't kill the Minotaur. Just then, all the water recedes into the toilet for a moment before bursting into 3 strong streams of water, sending Clarice and her siblings flying into the air, breaking off the stall doors as they fly. All drenched in toilet water now, Clarice and the gang run away as Percy stands there, confused and still in shock. He's met with a girl standing at the bathroom door who seems to have observed the whole thing, yet decided not to help him. She introduces herself as Annabeth and says that she's been observing Percy and wait for something like this to happen so that she can gauge if Percy would be able to help her win with glory. The Forbidden Kids. Upon asking about Annabeth, Luke provides Percy with some backstory. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades make a pact a long time ago not to father any more demigods, as their children were becoming too powerful. Zeus broke the pact and had a child who was called Thalia. Zeus having Thalia outside the pact made her a forbidden kid, which meant she attracted many more monsters than any other demigod, and staying alive was a constant battle for her. Before arriving at camp, Luke and Thalia were together on that journey. One day, they came across a child named Annabeth and decided to take her in despite the dangers that Thalia attracts after seeing her fight ferociously. Ultimately, Thalia wouldn't make it to camp, but Luke and Annabeth have been like family since then. Annabeth, being the strongest warrior in camp, wants to go on a quest, as that's the only way left to prove herself. Chiron prophesied that Annabeth would meet a demigod one day who is fated to go on a quest that even Chiron could not prevent. So she observes any newcomer at the camp, hoping for signs that this may be the demigod fated to take her on a quest. Luke explains that Annabeth sees the world differently, which is usually 6 steps ahead of everyone else, and that she loses interest in any newcomer in about 2 days, as she can tell they're not destined for glory. She is still observing Percy, which makes Luke believe she might be true, and Percy might just be the one. Let the games begin. All the campers have to participate in a camp-wide mock warfare for the capture of the opponent's team flag. Annabeth, being the head counselor of the Athena cabin, has led their team to victory 3 times, and no one has won a 4th title in a long while. Unclear what his role is in the games, Percy tags along with Annabeth, to whom he explains that he needs the games to go well so as to steer his father's attention towards him. Annabeth puts on an invisible cap, which is a gift from her mother, and disappears as the conch blows, leaving Percy still clueless clueless as to what exactly the game was. He proceeds to kill time, hanging around with his guard down, literally, when a revenge-seeking Clarice and her siblings return for round 2. Percy quickly gets on his feet and tries to remind her about the rule, stating there's no maiming or killing allowed during the games. Clarice stays unencumbered by the reminder. Dead set on hurting Percy, she draws the magical spear given to her by her father. Having left no option, Percy draws his pen sword and starts fending them off all by himself. He holds his own for a while and even manages to break off Clarice's spear. Their fight is interrupted by Luke and his teammates as they cheer out of joy from retrieving the opponent's flag. Clarice lays off Percy as they win the game, while Annabeth reveals herself to be standing there wearing her invisible cap, yet again deciding not to help him. She lends him a helping hand to get up and pushes him viciously into the water. To everybody's surprise, Percy's wounds start to heal after coming into contact with water, and then a silver trident appears hovering over his head as he stands in shallow waters. Chiron announces to everybody that Poseidon has claimed Percy Jackson to be his son, which also makes him a forbidden kid. Percy moves into Poseidon's cabin, which is empty and untouched from ages, as a direct effect of the pact made by Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. Percy's Quest. Grover goes out to the forest to meet Helena, who appears to be a dryad, a wood nymph, a spirit that lives in the forest. She takes Grover to appear before the Cloven Council so he can learn more about what happened to Sally Jackson, as she also turned into dust like monsters do when they die. He learns from the council that Hades has stolen Percy's mother and she's alive in the underworld. Grover seeks out Chiron and Mr. D to share this information, which it turns out they were already aware of. Both of them firmly advise Grover against telling Percy the truth, as truth can be very dangerous if it is not handled carefully. After Percy gets claimed by Poseidon, he is met with Chiron and Mr. D to give him his quest. Zeus's Master Vault has been stolen and he blames his brother Poseidon behind it, as Poseidon has always been jealous of Zeus's rule on Olympus. As a newly claimed forbidden child of the sea god, Zeus suspects Percy is the thief who stole his bolt, so he gives Poseidon an ultimatum to return the bolt in 1 week or there will be war. It is now Percy's quest to find the bolt and return it to Zeus, a quest willed on him by his father. Chiron and Mr. D suspect that Hades is the real thief of Zeus's vault, as he's the third jealous brother who resented both Zeus and Poseidon. So Percy needs to travel to the underworld where Hades lives in a quest for 3. Percy refuses to help his father as he was always absent from his life, but Grover bursts in with the information he was forbidden to share with Percy. Upon learning that Hades stole his mother and she's still alive, Percy is quickly persuaded into accepting his quest, thus bringing the second episode to an exciting end. Marvelous verdict. This new live-action adaptation of Percy Jackson strives to stay true to the source material, which will definitely delight longtime fans of the series. Its compelling characters, interesting plot turns, and thorough world building are sure to keep both fans and newcomers hooked alike. The first 2 episodes do their job in a fantastic fashion, which is to get the viewers excited about what's to follow. Will Percy attract many more monsters now that he's revealed to be Poseidon's forbidden child? Will he get to use his newly discovered talent as a swordsman? Who will be the 2 people Percy picks to make it a quest of 3? We'll all have to wait and watch out for every Wednesday on Disney+. We are definitely hooked onto the show, so keep watching Marvelous videos for more breakdowns of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Lastly, if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.